My guest is Austin Miller, energy healer, developing vocal channeler, medium, and extra-dimensional contactee with multiple beings. Austin, thanks for joining me and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you having me on the show.
Well, Austin, when did all this contact start for you?
It started when I was a child. So I'm originally from Albany, New York. And so when I was younger, um, my mother wasn't really there for me. I was around 7 years old. And so I was by myself. My dad left me at a couple months old too as well. And so I started seeing these things and started hearing these things. So they were extraterrestrial. They were reptilian. And now at this point, everything was a monster to me, a boogeyman, right? 7 years old, you don't know too many things. um, so these things would telepathically tell me all these negative things to do. It would also come out, even though this sounds cliche, it would come out my closet. It would pull me under the bed. This happened for years. I would at least say roughly 4 years. I remember one time that it grabbed me and pulled me under the bed, and I started floating down downwards under my bed. It was pitch black. I started floating like a feather. It was wrestling me and stuff like that. Um, and I remember it took about a couple minutes to get to the bottom, but as I was floating downwards, there was canyons on the side of me that started opening up. I started seeing rocks, and these huge canyons were like, I would say, a couple football fields combined. They were huge.
When you say you were floating, do you mean floating out of your body or like literally you were taken physically into another dimension?
See, that's the thing I don't want. I don't know. I don't know how I did it, but when he grabbed me, we ended up floating, and I ended up floating down with it. Looked like my body. I can see myself in this character doing what it was doing to me. Um, and I'm going to describe the character to you. So he was about, I would say, 7 foot plus. He was a greenish, brownish tint. His texture was kind of slimy a little bit. I didn't see any tail. He had no clothes. Didn't have any private areas. I could tell he was a male figure, and he didn't really have much of a snout. Um, and then so we ended up getting to the bottom.
But he did look kind of like a lizard man or something.
Absolutely, you can tell that his he had scales, but it was weirdly shaped to me.
Weren't you terrified of this happening to you over and over
Absolutely,
again?
I had to have the lights turned on. I didn't want my mother to even be away from me to turn the light on, but she was never really there. Long story short, and so this thing would terrorize me constantly, and it knew it, and I realized that it was feeding off fear. But I'll tell you a little bit later how that happened. So I went down there, and it would hold me, look, and it made me look at what was in front of me. And I remember seeing these other people that were human running around and scared like I was, but it was showing me other extraterrestrials, which were another species of them. As I got older, I realized they were draconians. These things were showing me, though, they were like 20 feet tall or something like that. They were huge. They had wings, very muscular, very big. Um, so that's what I remember about that. I remember one day my mom had horror movies laying all over the ground, and it was VHS, and it was specifically Freddy, and it was the Dream Warrior. Now, in the Dream Warrior, it told you, I guess, how to defeat a demon. And so, not to give it fear and what that. So, as seven, I don't know how I did that. I tried doing that, and I realized this thing started dissipating, and it started having like almost no control over me. I had to keep the light on for a couple of years afterwards, and so I think my body kind of shut it down from all the trauma and whatnot. So I really didn't see anything too much after that. So um, I ended up, well, long story short, going into placement because my parents really wasn't there for me. I got out at a older age. Ended up being in a relationship. Long story. This person was a narcissist. It didn't work out. I remember that I had to leave this house that we just got. Um, she wanted me out, and at this point, I had really was raised Catholic, but I really didn't have any religion. And I'm not like, saying anything bad about religion or nothing like that. But, it was something that was beating me up in the inside. And I didn't know how to feel about that, I guess, if you will. So I'm upstairs and I'm crying a lot and I have no one to talk to. I don't know how to express myself because there's no one I can really talk to. I'm old school. I try to fix things by myself instead of putting things on Facebook and other things. And sorry, it's kind of emotional. And so I looked up on the internet and I said, well, if angels are real, I really need your help right now. And so I asked for a strength verse and I said it for about a month and a half and to Archangel Michael specifically. Um, I wasn't really looking at any religion about it or nothing like that. I needed someone or something to kind of help me and guide me at this point. I had four kids with this woman at this point, and so all I knew was her. And so I had this woman call me out of the blue. I put my name on Facebook for a free psychic reading or something. So at this time, my mind was really like one-sided. I was kind of like contouring myself to this woman, and I started believing. When a narcissist, you start believing you are the problem, you're a monster, you're this. So that was where I was at. She was, you know, feeding me all that stuff. So anyway, so I had this psychic call me, and she was like, "Hey, I would like to give you a reading." And my thought process behind this was like, okay, because I'm so used to getting taken advantage of, and usually I'm the person doing for other people. I'm totally a giver. If I can make someone happy, I'll do it. So in my mind, I'm like, great. I'm like, at first I'm like, well, what does she want? Like, what's the catch? So she gave me a reading, and I could not believe how accurate she was. Again, I don't put myself on Facebook or nothing like that. She was telling me things that like you can only know if you were there in that time with someone else having a conversation or stuff happening. So she was telling me about all these things about the person I was seeing and stuff. Long story short, and she was like, "I'd like to give you a bigger reading. This you need it." And I'm like, "Wow." I'm like, "Sure." And in my head, I'm like, "Oh, great. Maybe she can fix my relationship." Which was the worst thing. And so she was like, "Okay, I would like to give you Reiki." Long story short, I was like, "Okay." I was like, "That's great. I would love to do Reiki. What's Reiki?" And I'm excited because she's knowing all these things, and I'm like, "Wow, I can't believe this stuff is real." You know. So she tells me I used to love looking at the stars. I go out there, I look at the stars at nighttime when my kids are sleeping, and I was just infatuated, with the stars, and I just felt like I was from there, and I was not really from Earth. I never really fit in like that. But I went out there, and she's like, "We'll go lay down on your stargazing chair, and I like to do Reiki on you." And she told me some of the things that might happen. You might cry, you might see this, or you might see certain colors. You might feel me touch you, whatever. And now this woman was from Canada at this time, okay? And I'm from Buffalo, United States. And so she starts doing Reiki on me. And I started feeling like these bugs almost touching me. Well, it felt like bugs, like little bugs landing on me, like little tickles, and they were just landing on me. So I kind of cracked my eyes just to see, if that's what it was. It wasn't. So I shut my eyes again. She continued. And she's on the phone with me, by the way, when she was doing. I don't remember. I placed it by my ear somewhere. But I'm laying down, and I started seeing these beautiful colors, and it looked like I don't want to say a rainbow, but it was very shimmery, and it was going like this with colors that were not even from Earth. Like they were, I can't even really describe these colors. And all of a sudden, I see these two archangels. Now, I don't really dabble in the Bible or nothing, so excuse me, I don't really know at this time they were angels. Before I seen them, I felt this overloving. I can't even explain this, but the love was tremendous, unconditional. Like I felt it, it blown me away. I felt like I was in a trance. It like literally was bathing in it. It just felt so good. I don't even. It's like having your baby times 1,000. I can't even explain it. But and then so a minute after I was feeling that, they came in, and when they came in, it was two of them. It was Michael and Raphael. Now Michael looked like a gladiator. Um, and I remember his sword being illuminated gold on the tip of it. Um, and it's just because I was feeling all this love and stuff like that. I probably would have been a little nervous because he took his sword and he kind of thrust it, like took it and put it in my chest area. Now I realized when he was doing it that he was opening up my chakras and stuff like that. Um, I found that amazing. And I realized that Raphael came by and he came in, he was right behind, and he looked completely different. He looked like he reminded me of like an emerald green plasma, but you can see the features of like, his eyes and, his body and stuff like that. And he had this like little cape. I want to say it didn't go all the way down. I want to say like halfway on his back or something like that. It reminded me of like the old cloaks, or not cloaks, wear that they would have back in the days when they were talking about Jesus and stuff, right? Um, so he came up to me and he wrapped it around me and he was like, "Hey," and I don't remember word for word, but I remember him saying to me that it doesn't matter what religion you're from, that we love you regardless of, and we believe in you even if you don't believe in us. And and I'm sitting there crying and I'm like, people go to church and they worship you and blah blah blah, and they doesn't matter. They love everybody. And I it was just amazing. So my life kind of took a turn from there. So long story short, I ended up moving to Canada, marrying the psychic. I ended up seeing more things. As soon as I seen these angels, it almost like it reopened whatever happened when I was younger. So I would have every other week an experience of seeing something, whether it's an extraterrestrial or a spirit, but most of the time, for some reason, I see extraterrestrial. So I don't know the name of that, so I just say medium because I do see them both, but I really do work with more with extraterrestrials.
Hmm.
I've probably seen between close to 12 to 15 of them, give or take. Half of them don't even say anything to me. At least they've been observing me as I observe them. I noticed that. Some of them, when I talk to them, they respond to me, as in like they know what I'm saying, but they won't talk to me. I had some talk to me though, physically.
When you're with these beings, are you seeing them like the way a medium sees ghosts, like you're seeing them in another dimension somehow and transparent? Or are they ever physically with you, like your neighbor or something?
No, I don't see them like they're my neighbor. I can only speak on my experience. Again, it's just been probably happening for about since the angels came by. It was probably around at least 5 years ago, 5, 6 years ago. So I see them differently. I mean, it's not like I can pull somebody down and be like, "Hey, John, how you doing?" But I will see things. I'll see people walk down the street. I'll just be walking. I'll just see them or orbs randomly, angels. And again, I only have seen just those two. I haven't seen any other ones prior to that. So when I do see them, though, like sorry, when we get back on the track, but when I do see them, most of the time it's like quasi physical or when I'm meditating. So, but there has been times where I don't know if they're like physical here with me, but they're doing something where I can interact with them and touch them, and we can interact together.
So you're face
Um,
to face with them, and
I'm face to face.
and you
There is,
can and you can physically touch them and feel them.
yes, yes.
What do they look like?
Well, the first one I would like to talk about is this Palladian woman. Her name is Shoshana, and she's my guide. Now, in the beginning, I heard that everyone has guides. It's be great to believe, and I want to believe that, at that part, or at that point, sorry. But I was so open to the fact that I'm like, oh my God, there's angels. That's beautiful. What other things is there out there that really exist? I was everything shifted for me. Um, and then I started realizing that like I started seeing phase or something like that. And I want to say phase because they didn't tell me they were a fae. I assume they're fae. I don't know if they're an angel or something like that, um, which I find very interesting. But I would like to go back to this Palladian woman. So when I moved down to Canada, I would go to meditate a lot. I started meditating for hours sometimes. It would get addictive because every time I would do it, I ended up seeing new beings and I would have experiences. So I would go across the street to this park in Kitchener, Canada, right by a stream, and I would meditate. And I was so excited the fact that I got to see angels and I can talk to them sometimes. And that I was like, well, I heard about fairies and fays. I heard about the galactic federation. Sorry, I wanted to make sure I said that properly. And so I was like, I'd like to meditate and try to see if I can talk to some of them and see what I could hear. And as soon as I started doing that, that's where I assumed it was a fae. I just telepathically, it just felt like it was a fae to me. Like it just came in, and it was by the tree line. So I snapped that picture that I sent you, and that's where that came about. So I also went back there meditating again, following day within that week or so, and I heard a voice. Now, the voice to me sounded like an old radio, like if you would tune in an old radio um, back and forth, and it was a female's voice trying to come in. And again, I cracked my eyes just to make sure no one's playing any games with me, looking around the tree a little bit, and there wasn't. So I closed my eyes. I continued to try to do it, but I got so excited because it was different. This was this was actually the first time I've actually heard an extraterrestrial try to communicate with me since I was little. And the difference is like, with extraterrestrials, it sounds like they lowered a mic in the side of the middle of your head. So it's very clear. You hear them speaking. So I got excited and I stood up and I'm like, I'm going to go tell my wife. So I'm running back home and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited. You know, so I don't see her for a couple months and I'm laying down, I'm going to sleep. I end up having this dream about her. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't remember the dream too much, but I remember her being in it. Tell my wife about it. A month or two later, again, I'm in downstairs in my crystal. I have a crystal room. I sell crystals, or I did, and I would meditate a lot down there. And so I wasn't meditating at this point, and she shows up. I don't know how it happened. She was in a chair. The chair wasn't even in my room. She was sitting in some wooden chair, and it didn't look like anything fancy. It just looked like regular wooden chair, and she was sitting in it. She looked like regular human clothes. It didn't even look like it was like something out of the ordinary. She was very tall. She didn't speak to me right away. Her hair was a bleach blonde color, but it was a different type of bleach blonde that I've never seen before. So her skin was very fair, very, very fair, like if it haven't seen the sun almost. That's the best way I can explain it. Um, her hair, her eyes were brown, and her hair I noticed was not out of place. Like there was no frizz or nothing. I don't know why I noticed that, but I noticed that. I've also so that interaction was very little and it was like probably like 2 minutes long, but it really felt like it was forever. What I think what she was doing is she was trying to break me into her to trying to get used to her a little bit more. And I think I had to raise my frequency up a little bit more. And I think this is why I couldn't connect and hear her properly. So she was trying to present herself. Um, then I started to astral travel. And what would happen is I don't even know how to do it. It would just randomly start happening. And this happened for at least 4 or 5 months in a row. Like every night I would go to sleep. It was just really weird. I would look back, my eyes would be going left to right. And I would be astral traveling. Sometimes it would be up in my house or above. I even been above the earth one time, over Niagara Falls, I saw Indians down there. But one time I did that and I met up with Shoshana, the Palladian woman. And we had some interactions, which was amazing. And during the interactions, she was showing me these tubes that were about 6 foot, maybe seven at the most. They were like cylinders. They were they were filled with like a white see-through water type substance, liquid. And there were like hundreds of them, and they were babies. And everything was done telepathically, which was amazing. It was amazing. I can't even explain it. But when she was showing me this, she was showing me that like we were part of like creating the sixth hybrid race, and I think you're doing that with multiple people. I'm not sure why they chose me. Um, these babies looked like they were like 12-year-olds or 11-year-olds, even though they were babies, and they were kind of like fetuses, kind of cuddled up a little bit, like if they were in a womb almost. Um,
So you're saying these babies are yours.
Yes, yes. I haven't seen them yet. I've been, trying to meditate, trying to talk to her more about it, see if I can, see them or whatnot. It does bug me that I don't get to see them. I do feel like there's an attachment that I have. Um, so that's what I have so far with her. I haven't seen her probably for a little more than a year now. I'm back in Buffalo, and so I had to get settled in and stuff like that too as well. So I also want to say that while I was in Canada, I got to start selling crystals, and in the meantime, I had a Super 7, and my wife was like, "Hey, like, you know how to program them?" And I'm like, "No, I know nothing about crystals." So she's like, "I would like to show you." So she started showing me how to do it, and so I would hold a crystal, and I don't remember exactly how she did it, but I would ask a question, she would tell me what to say, and I would say it, and I was asked questions. I started seeing this image in my third eye, and I had my eyes closed, and it was an extraterrestrial, and it had almond eyes. The skin was like more of a brownish color. I would say like a mud brown color. And so most of the time when I see them, unless I ask them, they only show their neck and their face for some reason with me. So I could tell that I could tell it was a male figure, and so he was being really silly with me. He would take his eye. He didn't speak, but he would take his eye and he would go close to it, and then he'd go back. And then he would go like this, and then he'd go back. So he was just being playful. And I found that really amusing. But at this point, I'm thinking to myself, am I making this up, or am I really seeing this? Because I've been having a lot of these experiences, and this thing it was so vivid, like it was so real in my head. And I'm watching it like a projector, like a movie. So what happened was I'm asking if I can see the rest of its body. So it starts showing me the rest of its body. I realize that it's in like a craft. I didn't see the outside, but I can tell it's driving something. And as it was going towards its body, because it was like humanoid, that it did have tentacles on the bottom of its feet. And I thought that was pretty interesting. It had multiple feet. It kind of reminded me like an octopus, kind of, but like it wasn't in water. I don't know. It was really, really cool. But I asked him where it was from. She asked me, and I asked it. I think this was my first time trying to vocal. I didn't even try. It was just vocal channeling. She asked me. I asked the entity, and it reminded me like if you would take an old VCR tape and you would fast forward it, and you see everything like scramble forward and all that stuff. Well, it was showing me planets, and it would like move to the side and stars, and everything would just move, and then all of a sudden it just stopped like that. And it showed me a picture of Saturn, and I asked it, I said, are you from Saturn? Because that's all I know is certain planets, they look like, what we were taught. And he said, no. So it's not, it didn't talk to me, but it responded to everything I asked. So that was pretty insane that I had with that one.
Before you go
Yeah.
on, both of
Yeah.
these ETs that you were face to face with, they basically look like us. They're humanoid, but one had
Yes.
bleached white hair and the other one had dark skin.
It wasn't bleached white hair. It was more of a blonde color, but it was really, really bleached for sure. And what was the other question you said?
And the other one was dark skinned. But did either one of them have any features that we don't have, like different shaped eyes or ears or
Um,
anything like that?
Just the one, yeah, just the one. Well, yeah, some of them that I ran into, but the Palladian, no. And the one that I was telling you about, the crystal, had almond eyes, had no hair. Um, but the one I'm about to tell you right now was a little different too as well. This was another. I assume it was a fae. This is what my intuition tells me. So one time, I'm laying in. Well, actually, we were camping. I was camping with my kids. It was late at night. And I think it was like 2:30. I'm up in there, and I'm joking around with my younger son, and because he couldn't sleep, so we're just having a little fun. He falls asleep, and I'm still in there, and I'm not tired, and this extraterrestrial just walks in, almost like she knew me. It wasn't like in a weird way. She didn't walk weird or nothing. She just strolled right in, and I'm gonna describe her the best I can. How we have ridges above our eyes? The ridges kind of continued all the way around here, very pronounced. Um, she was like, again, she was more of a mix with the grayish color. with the mud look. A lot of them I noticed look like that. It's weird because at least 5 out of the 12 I've seen has that kind of skin complexion. Um, but she had no hair. She had blue eyes. They weren't almond shaped, but they looked like our eyes. But they were like at least 3 times our size. And she had a beautiful smile. This actually was really weird. Because I was laying down watching her while this was happening. She laid by my side. She curled her leg to up to the side like that. And she just smiled at me. 10 seconds later, she disappeared. Um, and then I got a message that she wanted. She just said to me, she was like, "I wanted to see if you can see me." And I thought that was awesome. Like, um, but not all the time. Like I said, do they talk to me like that? Sometimes it's in short messages and stuff like that. I see symbols sometimes as well. Um, I recently I was seeing symbols, and I realized that some of these symbols were actually in what do you call those? In the grass that is pushed down in the
You,
fields and stuff. The crop circles.
yeah.
There we go. So I noticed that at least two of the symbols that I've seen were in the crop circles, and I'm just trying to figure that out. So I'm still going through it. I'm still learning some of these things and stuff like that. Um, I'm going to
You
tell you some other.
Well, before we go there, you sent me some pictures that we can take a look at. Let's
Yeah.
take a look at some of those now. We already saw the one of the Fae, but
Okay.
what else do you have to show here?
Okay. So if you go outside in Canada, or that's if you go outside and or if I, sorry, the picture outside was taken in Canada, and you can look up in the sky, and this is a Palladian woman. Again, her name is Shoshana. So I ended up taking a picture out there. I heard a voice that said to me very clearly, "Go outside." So I went outside. I didn't see anything really, but I saw something in the sky. So I took a picture of it. And then when I zoomed in, that's what I saw.
It almost looks to me like you can see a face and maybe some white features and some glowy blue and green, like part of the upper body. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, well, I see that. I see the hair, the face, the blue suit. You can make out like the features and stuff like that. These orbs right here are. It was at nighttime, and I heard some people talk, and I couldn't see them. So what I did was I took some pictures, and I played with the contrast. And as I was messing with the contrast, I can see these orbs. And as I zoomed in them a little bit, I can maybe you can see them because some people can, some people can't. They're actually people from the 1800s. One of them is actually facing to the right with a bonnet in her head. Um, there's an orb in the middle that's like that. There's one that's kind of more up top to the right, I believe. And she has more of curly hair looking forward at you, I guess, if you will. The one that you see right there that I circled actually is another spirit in the background with high cheekbones, the eye and the eyelashes, as you can see.
Thank you for sending those to me. I think you also saw a being that had blue skin.
Yes, yes, I did. Okay. So when I was meditating, um, I seen this being that had blue skin. She was very, very pretty, but her head was a little different. She had like a regular human face, but her head kind of like stretched out, almost like I would, it was like a zucchini or something like that. So was kind of longer, and the face in the front was normal, and she was very blue, and she had a blue dress on. It was very sparkly. And I told her, I was like, "Oh, you're very pretty." And I remember seeing her telling her that. And she was smiling, but she kept her mouth closed. And I was just telepathically talking to her and asking her, why was she keeping her mouth closed? I don't know why I was asking that, but she said, she was like, keeping my mouth closed because I don't want to scare you. She was like, and she was showing me these images of like her teeth being very pointy. And if you ever see a dog when they have like the extra skin flaps over their teeth sometimes a little bit, this is what she had. I seen also a male version of that too as well. The flaps on him was more pronounced on it by his teeth. This is what I got from. He didn't show it to me. She showed me images when I was talking to her. That was my experience with that. Um, I thought this was really cool too as well. I heard about these cat-like extraterrestrials. I don't know the proper name of them, so I'm not going to use it. I don't want to be very disrespectful, but it was beautiful. I meditated to them, and when I did, one of them gave me a hug, and it was a I would say it was a lion, and it looked like it had um, combat gear on. It was weird. I would say like gladiator gear almost. I don't know. Um, and it gave me a hug, but it showed me that an image of me when I was 7 years old, when I was going through all that trauma. And I thought that was very beautiful, and that was all it did. And one day I was watching Bashar. He was doing some show or something, and that came about, and they were saying that how much they like getting hugs, and it blew my mind. Yeah, it blew my mind.
Now, didn't you have some kind of interaction with Bashar one time where he was answering your questions or something?
Yes, yes, yes. So I have an audio for about 5 minutes with Bashar, and one time for Christmas, this was a couple years ago. My wife was going to get me Bashar, and we were gonna, because a lot of things were happening to me, and I needed some people that I knew that was authentic, that I can get some information from, um, you know. And so I was excited. They came, and I have 4 kids. And I realized, well, my kids are more important right now. I don't think I can afford that right now. Let's take care of the kids. We'll do this after Christmas, and then we'll do our thing. Um, Next thing you know, right when she were telling me, we were talking about it, it's like, it's okay, don't worry, we'll do it afterwards. I get an email, says Bashar. He said, you've been picked on Instagram. And I was like, boy, what synchronicity. This is beautiful. And I went on there, and he clarified what happened with the Palladian woman. And
So, what did he say about that?
he says that it was true, and he said that it was part of the sixth hybrid race that they're going to try to put in Earth here, which there's already extraterrestrials already walking among us.
So, Bashar confirmed that you had all these hybrid children, and that's creating the next hybrid race?
Yes, yes,
Wow.
yeah. He was also asking me why I want a vocal channel and stuff like that, and I told him, I was like, because it's not really, it's harder for me to really write and spell really good. I was never really good at my education because I was in a placement a lot. So vocal channeling would be really good for me, and that, to do it that way and stuff. But
Did Bashar reveal to you why these ETs have been contacting you all your life?
no, he didn't. Honestly, it was really quick because I didn't want to take much of his time. I probably could have stayed here for a little bit more extra time and asked more questions. But I was very nervous, and I didn't want to feel like I was just, taking advantage of that or anything like that. I didn't get that from him or nothing like that. At first, he was telling me that, she'll tell you what you need to know and certain things like that. He was telling me, and then when I explained some of the story, he was like, yeah, he didn't tell me the rest, and he was like, yes, like, that's because such and such, and this is this, and I'm like, oh, okay, so. And I kept those just to make sure I have proof and stuff. I've been trying to gather proof. I want to take a lie detector. I want to write a book, and I want to do certain things and kind of put all that in place. I think it'd be really nice for other people to kind of see what's
Did
out
it
there.
did any of these beings that you met with face to face give you any messages for humanity?
No, and if they did, it would be more of light language. It wasn't face to face. They would be giving messages for humanity. Again, I'm trying to decode these light languages. I don't know what they are. But they're supposed to be whatever it means to you. I know that. To me, it really meant that we're on close contact. There were two triangles that were coming together, one up, one down. They were pointing towards each other, and they had these strands that looked like ones that were going out on the sides of each one, and then one in the middle, up and down. And to me, that just tells me that like contact is like right there. Um, I do believe that. So I would also like to tell you about this other contact that I had too as well. That's
Mhm.
okay.
Can I ask you a couple questions
Yeah,
first here?
absolutely. Yes.
How many alien children do you think you have? Did you count them?
I couldn't count them because when she showed it to me, it was more a couple of seconds, and it was anywhere from 50 to 100. They were like for every 2 feet, 3 feet, there's another cylinder filled with a child in there. So
So at least
it
50?
was at least they were doing it in massive amounts.
Where do you think these beings are? Like in a cave underground somewhere? Or on a ship?
Maybe a ship, I think more if anything. I don't feel underground. Um, I'm trying to remember the outside, what it looked like, because I was so focused on the children and what she was showing me, and you know, but I don't remember what the outside. I don't want to, start exaggerating. So I don't know what the outside. I don't
Hmm.
remember that, but I do remember the focus on the cylinder, the tubes, and the baby and whatnot. So,
And you called these the sixth hybrid race? I'm not sure.
um, or started.
The sixth hybrid race.
Yeah.
Okay. Why do you think that you've been in contact with ETs your whole life?
I'm not too sure, but I can tell you one thing. I all my life I really felt that I didn't fit in, and I really, not that I was a bad kid, but I just felt that I didn't fit in, you know. I always had a fascination with the stars. I'd always look up in the stars, and I always wondered, where do I belong? Where am I? But when I had this contact with this Palladian, I really felt, and I do feel that like I was Palladian, but I don't know for sure. I don't, but it resonates so much with me, and I don't know if it's just because I had contact with her, and I resonate so much with her now, with her frequency. I don't know, but that's what I feel. I definitely know now that there's life after death, from my experiences and stuff that I have, which that was another thing that bothered me. I know now that as well. That well, I didn't. Just one thing I didn't tell you, but I found out that there wasn't hell, which was nice in my experience.
Mhm.
That we transform. That everyone really isn't bad. We're all source. And through that, we're all expressing ourselves in all different ways, as much as it seems like it's horribly wrong. They have to transfer, or they have to get to a certain point in their life to wake up and get to that other side. So you'd be really surprised what you were before, and so on. But I feel like that's what you have to go through to evolve. It's more than a 9 to 5 job and a girlfriend in a house. Who am I? What am I doing here? What is really my purpose? You start realizing that like we're all connected, that we're all the same. You start treating everyone different, and it's I don't know. It's so crazy once the further you go down the rabbit hole. But I find it very beautiful, and I feel that more people are waking up nowadays and wanting to dip their feet into spirituality, and I find that very beautiful. I also feel that pressure creates diamonds, and even though it's been really hard for a lot of people through a lot of years, I feel like this is why all these gifts are exploding. You see more people that are psychic are doing this, or I feel like we all are gifted. To be honest with you, some people can take cars apart. Some people can just do tires. You know, but I always feel that you can work on that to enhance those. That if you really want to do that, a spiritual school if you want, really, and just meditate.
Well, how did it feel to be validated by Bashar that you do have these hybrid children?
$1 million, honestly, because when you first started going through, and honestly, I feel like this is why some people probably think they're crazy because they have no one to validate them. They have no one to kind of show them, hey, listen, I've been through, I know what you're going through, right? You might find the wrong one, like, oh yeah, you're crazy. Let's get you meds, or hey, let's, it was beautiful, really.
What did they look like again? Did it look like a new upgraded human race or did they look more ET?
The babies,
Hmm.
they look normal, like a regular, like you wouldn't be able to extinguish between you and me. To be honest with you, they just looked like they were huge. So the babies, I mean, to us, a baby in the womb would probably what, 12 inches, maybe 15 inches, or depending on how big, right? They were like a 12-year-old, all cuddled up.
Wow.
Yeah,
Do you think that you were an ET previous to this incarnation and that's why you
I
don't
do.
feel like you fit in here?
I do. I do. So to answer that question honestly, I had a, I don't want to call it a flashback, um, but I had this episode when I was meditating, and I believe that it was my past life. Um, this was again, this was different than me regular meditating or something. I almost felt like I was stuck into a movie, like I was watching it. Was really like I was really there and I was watching it. Um, what happened was I was on an island, and this was the 1800s, 1700s, and I was hovering above a person. I would say about 3 feet above the person, so pretty close. And this gentleman looked like he was probably in his 50s, 40s, maybe the pirate era, maybe. He had like the white linens, ripped up a little bit, no socks. And he was like running through the jungle or on this island. And he was going left to right. And I was just thinking to myself while I'm watching him, boy, why is he running like that? It makes it like I could feel that he has anxiety and he was scared, he was up. And I'm like, I hope he's all right. I was like, I'm feeling like something's going to happen to him or something like that. I don't remember word for word, but it was pretty much like that, right? And he ended up going to the right. And to the right, there's like a little pathway, and then there's like this little dome area. And I realized that there was like this dugout old canoe. Like, back in the days, they would, 1800s, 1700s, they would take a whole tree, just dig it out, the natives and all that. So I noticed that when I was looking at it. And as soon as he put his foot in the canoe or whatever, he was shot, and then I was sucked back to this person that shot him, and he was in a suit, he was kind of tall, whatever, and he had a long gun, and now I was like, "Whoa, I was the person that shot him." So I was thinking, well, maybe that was my past life. So like these are experiences that I had. So I don't know 100%, but that's the experience I had, and I feel that me going through that, like now I can never hurt anybody. I love everybody. I could never hurt myself, but with that being said, I really feel that in my experience, there's no hell. I feel like you have to go through a process, and when you get to that point, you start awakening. You start realizing more things. And what I mean by awakening, you realize, like we said, there's more to life you know, than just a job and a girlfriend. The cool thing about spirituality is you can believe in a t-shirt. It's the experience that you experience yourself, and I think that's beautiful.
Do you think there's any difference between communicating with ETs versus communicating with spirits or the Fae?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So when I communicate with spirits, it's like when I hear them like you do. Like if I would hear someone like you, it would be the direction that you're talking. Like if I were to close my eyes like a blind person, it would be I don't see them all the time. I do, but when I don't, it would be the direction that they're talking, I can hear them. But with an extraterrestrial, for instance, I can hear them because it seems like they lowered a mic in my head. So it's very loud, very clear, um, a big difference.
So besides the reptilians, do you think all the other ETs are benevolent?
So far that I have witnessed so far, yes. But I've also had another experience with a reptilian too that was actually really nice and really good. He was a little different. This one was, I would say, around a little, maybe less than 5 foot, 4 foot, maybe 10 or something like that. Very short. He looked like he was kind of like squatting down halfway, but not quite. Very muscular, very thin. Um, I'm trying to remember what he looked like. He had more of a tail. This one had more of a snout that came out, I say, about 4 or 5 inches. His eyes were yellow with a slit, and he didn't say much to me, but he was checking me out and stuff. He was very friendly. So I do believe that there are bad ones and there are good ones. So I mean, as much as a lot of people say that there are negative extraterrestrials and or reptilians, that they're all bad, I really feel that there's good ones too as well. Even though I had bad encounter with one of them or a couple of them
Have you ever stood outside and seen UFOs, especially with other people like family members or
all the time. My wife, my kids, some friends. I love doing it. It's actually an addiction. I love going out there because I feel a connection, more of a connection when I'm out there and I see them, because again, I really feel like I'm not from here, and I just feel like I resonate more with them, and I do feel that every time I'm interact with them, they're about love, and they're not scary, and then they most of the time they won't even show themselves if they feel like they're going to scare you or hurt you.
Do you have any pictures of those UFOs?
I don't. I have no pictures of the UFO. No, I don't. But I did see one UFO actually before I went to Canada with my sister. Um, and this one was the first time I actually seen a UFO. And so it was hovering over Canada, and I was over in the States. And so I'm like watching this thing over with my sister because we usually go fishing in the water. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, Lisa, I'm like, what if, is that a UFO? It's weird. It has no wings, it has no lights, you know. So we're watching, and this thing must be about, it wasn't far, I would say about 100 feet away. And it was on top of like almost a skyscraper or something. It was above the buildings. And then all of a sudden it started going towards us. It went over towards the water, it went down. It was hovering above the water about 10 feet, 40 feet from us. So it was like we're in a science fiction movie. My jaw dropped. I looked at my sister to make sure that she saw what I saw and I wasn't hallucinating. And this thing had no rivets. It was a dirty metallic color. It looked like kind of a football shaped, I want to say almost. No windows, made no noise, no lights, no wings, no wings, no markings. It stood there for about 2 minutes and it took off vertically. It made no sound. So that was, and then Bashar, I told Bashar about that. It's on the recording too, and he told me that I have my conscience was on there, which I thought was fascinating. So I was another person of me from a different dimension was on there. Um, I've also had it validated by Bashar that one time I was in Canada. I was in my meditation room. I was laying in my meditation chair, and this was around 3 in the morning. And I really feel intuitively that this was a gray. It may not have been. I never seen a gray, but I think I have. So I was laying down, and because I can't really put which extraterrestrial is which unless I see it and someone describes it, I'm like, oh, that's the one, you know. Um, so I'm laying down, and all of a sudden, someone said, "Open up your eyes." I opened up my eyes. This thing looked like it was laying on top of me, but it wasn't, and it was really funky looking. It looked like if you would take a car, an old like 1980 car, and you would run the engine, and it's really thick smoke in the back, and it just had different layers, so it kind of formed its identity, kind of like its shape, its eyes and characteristics and stuff, and it had like a pear-shaped body. It was just really really weird, and it was hovering. I literally could have just hugged it if I wanted to. It was that close, hovering above me. So when I opened up my eyes, I screamed for a second. Not that I was scared, but it caught me off guard, you know? And then it put up its hands like this, and I'm looking at it, and it didn't say anything, and it floated through my crystal wall and just left. But I realized it was showing me that to say, hey, I'm not going to hurt you. I have nothing here, like, I'm not going to hurt you. But by that time, I'm like, come back, please. I'm sorry. It was already done with. But that was a really cool experience. And I asked Bashar about that, and he said that they were doing checkups and stuff to make sure if I'm ready for more.
Hmm. Wow. Do you think we're going to have full open disclosure anytime soon where ETs will be walking among us?
I do, and I feel like it's already happening. I feel like it's already happening to certain people, and then it's going to get like bigger and bigger. And this is why I feel like disclosure is getting bigger. I feel like more people are dipping their toes, like we said, more. So yeah, I honestly do feel that they told me physically? No, I feel that in my heart, though. Um, I feel like the world's turning, if you will, um, for a better way.
Well, after watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to you and ask you questions. Are you open to that?
Absolutely, absolutely.
What's the best way to contact you?
So you can reach me at my email if you'd like to talk to me about anything. Dad and Son is DADANDSON 2728 at gmail.com.
Do you have a website?
I don't have a website. I used to do it in Canada and I came back here, so I'm just trying to get everything back up and whatnot. So If you need to reach me, you can reach me on there until I get everything right.
Is there anything else that you're working on that you want people to know about?
I'm working on vocal channeling. So this is still something I'm working on. It's been really hard because I don't. It just happens randomly. I'll start channeling things. I notice sometimes I'll just start randomly. I'll just sit in my room sometimes and I'll just start gibbering and I'll start even when I'm by myself. I notice that. So I think I'm gonna start recording them and seeing like where they go with that and stuff.
So when you say
Um,
vocal channeling, is that like Bashar?
yeah,
Do you think you're channeling ETs or something else?
I have. I don't know how. I don't know how I did it. I don't know how to do it, but I try to take little hints from Prashar um, and different people that are in the spiritual community that try
Hmm.
and just see what I can. I mean, because I really think all it is just permission slips, and whatever works for you, you know. So that's where I'm at right now.
Well, it'd be great to have you back once you're competent and good at it.
Yeah, I would love to be back. And honestly, Jeff, I appreciate you giving me a spot to stand on. Thank you.
Well, before we finish up, can you leave us with a last positive message?
I would just like to tell everyone, just remember that we're all one. We're all the same person. Let's just treat each other with love and kindness, and you know, um, and meditation is the key to evolving. I do believe that.
Austin, thank you for your message and thank you for being my guest.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks for watching the Jeff Mara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.